Welcome back. So we're gonna make some users today, or actually, we're gonna be making the user module to clarify that. And the first thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna use the Nest CLI to generate some files for us. So Nest generate module user. Since idea is singular, I'm gonna just do user with no s. Then we're also going to need to make the controller. Controller. I don't actually know the shorthand off the top of my head, so I'm just going to type in controller outright. And then finally, let's make the service, which is going to be inside of user, called user. And that should generate all of these files. And then finally, we need if we look at our ideas, we're gonna also need the entity and also the DTO. So let's do that. Touch source user.dto.ts and source user/user.entity.ts. Okay, so quite a bit of files, but all of them are necessary for what we're going to do. So let's make sure our users is imported into our app module, which it is. And let's close that out. And for generating users, we're going to need to install two packages. So we're going to do yarn add. The first of which is going to be bcrypt.js. And then the second is going to be JSON web token. And since we're in TypeScript, we're also going to need the types for the respective modules or packages. Yarn add, and we're going to install it as dev dependencies. So we're going to do the -d flag, and it's going to be at types / JSON web token at types / bcrypt.js. Let that install. Let's double check our package JSON, and it should be right here. And if you're committing your code correctly, VS Code should have the highlighting here to see your changes. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's actually create the data model for our users. So, this is an empty file, so let's change that. We're going to need entity from typeform, and it's going to be export class called user entity. And in our database, we don't actually want it to be stored under the name user entity. So we're going to specify the table name right here, user. And let's double check really quick. Never mind. I'm just going to go with it. Alright, so see, our entity, we're going to need a couple of items. Definitely we need the generate column for the ID. And we're also going to pass in the type of UUID. And then also for metadata, we're going to also need the created date, create date column. We'll just call it created, and this is going to be of types date. And then for the actual user data, we want the username of type string, and we also want the password. Now, password shouldn't be too confusing. It's just going to be a column of type text in our database. But for our username, we actually want it to be a little specific. So we're going to pass in an object to specify some options. So the type is just going to be text. Nothing special there. But we want the unique flag to be true. And now this is so not only is the ID a unique identifier, but also the username. So no two users should have the same name. Now, going back to the idea entity, this is all we needed. However, user is a little special. So, for instance, we don't want to store the password in the database as plain text. We actually want to hash it, which is why we installed these two packages. So, we're going to use a decorator provided to us by Typeform called before insert, which is going to call this method. Now the method name doesn't actually matter, but I'm going to call it hash password. This function method is going to be automatically invoked right before it's inserted. So this is where we're going to hash the password. And I believe I actually want this to be an async method. So we could do this dot password equals to await bcrypt dot hash this dot password. Bcrypt, which is not imported, so we need to import that. And import star as bcrypt from bcrypt.js. As a side note, this is how you import non-TypeScript specific modules into a TypeScript project. Now why does this matter to us? Oh, and we also need to pass in the strength of our hash, or the salt number. It's going to use this number to create the hash. And let's see, do we need anything else from inside of our entity? Oh yeah. We also need to create a response object. So I'll just do response object. And let's just destructure all of our properties. So we got ID created username. ID created username from this, and return ID created and username. And this is because when we return it to the client, we don't want to send the password, because that would make it really easy to hack, or among other things. Let's see. I think that's good for now. Let's go into our module, make sure everything's hooked up. So controller is there, user is there. We also want to import the Typeform module for feature, and we're going to pass in our user entity, which we just created. Make sure we have a comma here. Let's put this up here. And let's see, what else do we need? That looks good for now. So let's go into our controller. So let's go back to our idea controller really quick. So you'll notice that up here is we're passing the string of idea. That's actually the route path that we're going to. I'm actually going to change this to API/idea so that we could go to, well, so we know that we're accessing an idea endpoint from our API. That'll get more important later when we introduce a different endpoint or a different API endpoint, such as GraphQL. And our controller, we actually don't want to pass in a root path. We're going to specify it in the two post methods. So this is going to be login, not that log in. And post register. Have to be careful because of the autocomplete. So this is going to be /login, and this is going to be /register. And then just for development purposes, we're also going to do a GET request. And we'll just do a show all users. Make sure that's correct casing. And this one's going to be /API/users. Let's go in our idea controller really quick. I prefer this to be plural. Personal preference, but it's not too important. Anyways, so get rid of this. This is all we need for our controller. We also do need to bring in our service. Actually, the constructor is going to be empty, but it's going to be private user service, and is going to be of type user service. So we're injecting the service through the constructor, and we will access it within both of these. So login. So for example, these methods don't exist yet, but user service will just do a show all. Login will do a login, and register will do user service dot register. And all of these needs to return a response, so we're just gonna do a return on all of them. And let's see, do we need anything else in here? I believe we actually want to pass in the data, obviously. Should have known that. Alright, so body, sorry. And this is going to be data. It's going to be of type user DTO, but we don't have that quite yet. Body, data, and we're going to pass those both into the methods. So that should be good for now. Let's open up our service, and let's not make any more changes to our controller, just for confusion. So we need to create these three methods. So login, register, and a show all, which I would prefer to be up here. Okay, so our user service also needs access to our database. So let's go do that. Where did I put that? Nope. 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 Here we go. Constructor, and we're gonna inject repository, and we're gonna pass in our user entity here, and we're just gonna do this user repository of type repository of user entity. Okay, that's quite a bit of things, but okay. So with that out of the way, let's also make this private. Sorry. There we go. So the show all should be pretty simple. We're just gonna do a const users equals await this dot user repository dot find, and return users, whoops, async. But before we return the users, we want all of them to be sanitized with our toResponse object method. So we're just gonna pass it through a map user, and this is gonna be user.toResponse object. Okay. Let's put data here and data here because we're passing in data for login and register. And I think this is a good time to create the data transfer object. Should have been more prepared, to be honest. Okay, so export class user DTO, which, if you think about it, we're actually going to pull up the entity really quick. So these are all the fields that we require. However, we only require these two from the client side. So that's all that's going to be in here. So username of type string and password of type string. And let's add some validation really quick. So this is going to be is not empty, coming from class validator. And this is also going to be is not empty. And if you remember, class validator is how we're using validation, and it's how we're using this validation pipe over here. This thing. Okay. And in both our service, user DTO, we will put in the type so that it knows to check. It knows, TypeScript will know what we're expecting. And then also we're going to add in the validation here. So uses pipes, new validation pipe. And that's going to validate the data being the correct form. Okay, now we just need to return something, or actually do something with the data and return the correct object. Okay, so not too bad. So let's actually destructure the username and password from data. And we're gonna do a const user equals await this dot user repository dot find where username async. Okay, so the async is for the await. Alright, and the reason why we're finding it is to make sure that the user actually exists. So we're just going to do a small error checking really quick. So if there's no user, or if await user.compare password, so if the user doesn't exist or the password doesn't match, we will throw a new error. Okay, so let's see, invalid username password, http statuses dot, let's just do bad request. And this is red because I actually did not create that method. So let's go do that. Async compare password, and this is going to be the attempted password. So just return await bcrypt dot compare attempt and password. This dot password. There we go. Let's see. Before I go back, let's make sure this is correct. Well, while I'm here, let's actually implement the token. Oop, 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 oop. Okay, so with the token, we're also going to import the JSON web token. JSON web token. And we just do a get token. Also make this private. Tokens declared by the, yeah, that's right. Alright, and we're just gonna do a const ID username from this and return jwt.sign ID username, comma, process.env.secret, secret, and we're also gonna add in the expires in option of 7 days. 7 days. There we go. Oops. And with that, let's also add the token to the response object. Well, we don't want the token for the show all method, so we're actually gonna create a data type in here. So we're just gonna show token to boolean and set the default to true, and just do a if show token response object dot token equals token const response object equals, put this up here, and down here we're just going to return response object. Okay, so with that, let's modify this method a little bit. So we're just going to do false here. Compare password. I named it wrong, didn't I? Compare password. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. So I think that's all the things that we need to do. So let's see. And then finally, if there's no errors, we'll just return the user to response object. And then register is going to be pretty similar. Const. We just need the username this time. And just do a const user equals await this dot user repository find one where username. If the user exists, then we're going to throw it there. New user already exists. Status dot bad request. And then if not, then we're going to reassign the, this has to be a let actually. We're going to reassign the user object, a variable I mean, to a new created user. So repository.create, passing in the data, and await this user repository. Let's save the user. Return user to response object. Okay, that's a little bit more than I thought it was gonna be. But I think that should be it. Let's make sure we add the secret into our dot environment. So secret equals to any string. I'm just gonna do this is a secret key. So let's see. The app, the user module is hooked up. The DTO is created. The user service is also created. Everything looks good. Now all we need to do is test all of our code. So yarn start dev. Let it start. And man, I really should have been more prepared. All right, let's open up Postman. Let's close out all of the updates and stuff when they pop up. Close. All right, so API users, we do a send. Go away. And there's a user already. Let's see. So there's something wrong with the toResponse objects method. toResponse object equals to true. User service show all user response object to false. If we do this to true, what happens? That shouldn't be there. False. Why is the token showing? Oh. There we go. Oh, right. Let's just do it any for now. And send. This also brings up a good time to bring in, like, we should have a definite type for the response object. So I'm just going to do a export class user response object. And let's see what we have. ID created and username. So ID is going to be update. Username is string. Password is no password. Sorry. Created is a date. ID is a string. Sorry about that. And then optionally we have a token, which is of type string. So now we could add the type. So this is going to be user response object array. Right? Map response. Oh, right. So response object is returning user response object. There. And import. Show all. Return type is promise. Oh, of course. Promise. There we go. And then, of course, we could add the types here. to make sure that we are definitely returning the correct thing. Okay, so let's test our login and register. So first let's register, which is a post method. And right now it's username and password, which should give us an error because the user already exists. And it does. And let's check if we have a validation error, if we don't have the password, which is correct. And although user already is bad, oh right, let's get rid of that. There's a validation error. Password should not be empty. Got it. Now let's add the password back in and see if we could log in. Invalid username and password. That is strange. Let's make a new user. Perhaps I was using a different hash. Let's just go with Kelvin, which is my name. Send. And there's our token as well as the actual user information that we want. And if we do a login now, it should work. Invalid username and password. We are compare password. Something is wrong. Let's see. Compare password. Invalid username and password, which shouldn't be the case. See if there's no username. Oh, sorry. We were checking if the password matched, and if it did, it would send back an invalid request. Now adding the not in front of it should fix the problem. Alright, let's log in. And there we go. And let's check if the username user is still valid. And it is. Okay. So in this video we created another module, the user module, where we are now able to log in and register, as well as see all users, but the users are sanitized, so we're not showing the password to the client, which is good. Get status, added user module. Okay, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.